From the Tech in San Jose, welcome to another Tech Close-Up. I'm Mark Albertson. Of course, you know by now that if you want to know about Silicon Valley innovations and the innovative minds that dream them up, well, you've come to the right place. In this month's program, we'll see how new technology is affecting many of our everyday tasks, from driving a car to predicting the weather. We'll look inside a company whose products are making it possible for cell phones to grow smaller and more powerful than ever. And we'll see how an innovative exhibit at the Tech Museum in San Jose is letting us see our world in a whole new way. You may not know it, but every car produced over the last 10 years has a little socket underneath the dashboard where computer chips plug in to collect diagnostic information. Everything from how far your car's driven to, say, like here in California, the environmental smog tests. Well, we found a company in Hayward, California, that lets consumers take advantage of this technology to not only find out what's going on in their engine, but also what's going on the outside, too.
When an engine revs, when the wind blows, it's probably no surprise that computer technology often records what happens. So don't be surprised when a computer records the way you drive.
This is something that, as I'm driving along, and if I were a teenage driver, there's no way that I could see the unit.
A little sensor that plugs underneath the dashboard. For less than $200, it's the ultimate report card.
We wanted to have a tool that would be able to provide parents with enough information to do something about their teenagers before there's a tragedy or an accident.
Davis Instruments, based in Hayward, California, manufactures sensors that give consumers a cheap way to do expensive things, like run their own weather stations.
You know, you're getting barometric pressure or wind speed or rainfall or all of the things that a meteorologist would use to tell you what the weather's going to be like tonight, tomorrow, in the next week. The major difference is that it is smaller. It's much less expensive, and it's much simpler, actually, to use.
The Weather Service may spend $20,000 or more to monitor the skies, but the Davis consumer version lets do-it-yourselfers do the same thing for about $600.
This is actually temperature and humidity in a shield to keep the sun from affecting the reading. And in this particular case, we actually drive a fan, so you're always pulling in the real air temperature. This is actually a rainfall device, just a cone that collects rain, and a tipping bucket that every 100th of an inch will be enough to tip over and empty out the rain. These two here you're looking at are ultraviolet and solar radiation. So we're picking up information from the sky itself to help either determine how much water you're losing from your crops or just how much sunscreen to put on in the morning. And finally, the wind speed and direction, obviously reacting to any of the speeds that it gets. And probably the most recognizable part of any weather station. It's what's spinning all the time and giving you constant information.
I'm assuming that these are the graphics, this is the data produced by these sensors. Is
That's
that
right. Now, this the only difference in this particular case is this is our rather sheltered weather station for display. This is taking data wirelessly from our own roof, right? So we are transmitting data every 2.5 seconds from the roof to the receiver that you see sort of in the back. And as you can watch, wind speed, for example, something that is always changing throughout the day. You can see as the weather changes, it's being reflected in our screen. So really, the amateur meteorologist of the world could sit down at this anytime they wanted and say, okay, what's going on now? What can I expect for the future? How can I sort of outdo my own local weather forecast by information that I have on my roof that they don't have the advantage of? Well, everyone needs a hobby. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised to find out how many people just love the weather and love it more than the Weather Channel or their daily forecast from the local meteorologist. They want information all the time, and they want information about their own house, backyard, local area, maybe even school, that could be quite different than what the 6 o'clock news is going to tell them about their next day.
The demand to know comes from places like Northern California, where microclimates scatter sun and heat in one place and rain, wind, and fog just a few miles away. So on the roof of its Hayward building, Davis tests its weather technology to see how much it can take.
You don't have hurricanes or snowstorms here, so how do you know they can take it?
Right. Well, that's actually a very good point. We are probably nicer to our instrumentation being in Hayward than some other parts of the world, for sure. And the fact that we sell so many weather stations actually also helps us determine this. Right? We can tell how long it may last in Hayward. We may not know how much more trouble they'll have in Michigan or in Sweden or in the Antarctic based on the unique problems that they might have, but we do get a lot of feedback from them too, and it does help us calibrate.
Now, it's one thing to track the weather, but it's another to track how people drive. Davis designed a chip for cars built after 1996. The chips plug into sockets underneath the dashboard. Automakers design their own chips to diagnose engine problems. The Davis chip diagnoses human nature.
This would just give you an example of when we download the data of what a hard acceleration looks like.
The chip records driving habits like the jackrabbit start or when you jam on the brakes. It's all a download away.
Once we plug in the car chip, and it's a total plug-and-play system. Everything that you need in order to be able to download the data comes with the software CD as well as the download
So it's just
cable.
a straight USB?
USB. Just plug it in, and we're ready to go.
The chips paint a picture of what the driver's up to. Red numbers mean sudden brakes or jump starts or when you drive too fast.
For example, if you're a fleet manager, you got to pay for brakes and tires and all this maintenance. You don't want people that are lead-footed, on your vehicles. So these are the things that are visible to you and you can talk to people about.
But Davis gears its chips for parents. That's how sales manager Frank Velasquez figured out that his A-student son was a different kid behind the wheel.
On one occasion, he took our youngest son with him to go out and get some fast food. Found out that on the trip out, he gets onto the freeway, he hits 88 miles an hour. That when he went to get his food, he went through the drive-thru. Now, he didn't understand that, but I was able to show how he was doing jackrabbit starts the entire way. Then, got their food, got back up onto the freeway. On the way home, he hits 93 miles an hour. So once he realized his freedom was in jeopardy, he changed his ways.
So suddenly he's a model driver now?
A very model driver.
Has anybody disciplined you for the way you drive based on what the car chip showed?
Not yet, because I'm the only one who gets to see my data.
Sneaky.
So as technology grows cheaper and more common, don't be surprised if it pops up underneath your dashboard or on a clear day in your backyard.
We have never really advertised the fact that we're going to beat the weatherman because he's got a lot of tools and he has his job at stake, right? He's going to make every effort to be better. But we are surprised when we can outdo it, maybe, some percentage of the time. And that's mostly for fun and for the enjoyment of the owner, right? The weather station owner who can say, I beat the weatherman today or the last few days because they don't quite get my weather like I do.
For some folks, saving for the future is easy, but for you, it might take a little more effort. Saving for your future is your responsibility, and there's a lot to save for.
I never thought of that.
Like your child's education, perhaps uncovered medical expenses, or just to be sure you can live the way you want when you retire. The time is now to save for tomorrow. Save now or work forever. The choice is yours. Choose to save.
Whenever there's new innovations or revolutionary technologies, chances are they've got something to do with the Silicon Valley. And that is what Tech Closeup is all about.
Tech Closeup is about even more than just bites and chips. We cover the people in your community. We're all over the Bay Area. To find Tech Closeup where you live, just go to our website at techcloseup.com.
This is firstgov.gov.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration.
Where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
What are those?
Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time.
Just log on or email us and get what you need. firstgov.gov.
Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody told me 10 years ago that mobile telephones would be smaller than a deck of cards, but they'd be able to take and store pictures, I'd say they were crazy. Well, as we all know, these technologies can do a whole lot more than that today. Now, this kind of advance requires new changes in designs in circuits and chips, and that's what makes this next story pretty neat. It's a company in Sunnyvale, California, where flexibility is the name of the chip game.
Sneak a peek at the future of consumer electronics. Researchers at Neoconix in Sunnyvale, California, think they're about to change computers, TVs, and cell phones forever.
So when I see a technology as exciting as this, it gets the blood flowing, and you start thinking about how can I take that technology beyond even where the founders thought it could go. And that's the excitement about all this, and that's what gets you revved up in the morning. You can't wait to come into the office and think about new ways to use this technology that haven't been thought of yet.
They come to Neoconix to think small. All these printed circuits, the backbone of electronics. Neoconix hopes to shrink them down and speed them up.
We have the ability here to really leave a legacy as a company because we are reinventing an industry that's been established for almost 100 years, and we are disrupting it, or have the potential to disrupt it significantly. In fact, change the entire dynamics of the market to bring a lot of functionality into the printed circuit board without using any kind of traditional products or traditional manufacturing.
It's all about connections. Processors, chips, cameras, memory. For them to work together, they each have to connect to a circuit board. And those connections take up space. And the connections slow things down.
And these connectors that you see on a typical printed circuit board are the bottleneck to that performance and also drive a lot of cost.
So, is there an alternative to clunky connectors? Well, Neoconix has an idea. Thin, flexible connector strips. They're built or embedded right onto each circuit board. They sandwich devices together. They even bend to shape the right joint. That shrinks the space it takes to latch one board to another.
That's a very compelling solution to especially in the consumer electronics and the mobile markets, where every millimeter of profile is critical for competitive advantage in a product. In this case, we're taking away, fractions of an inch or more.
Everybody's impacted by this technology because ultimately the end products benefit from it. And it's all about getting more in less space, and that's what we do. That's the value that we bring to our customers, and ultimately their products bring to their customers.
Shave a fraction of an inch off a connection, and you get more compact cell phones, TVs, computers, and electronics that work faster and more efficiently.
This is the first time I have ever personally taken a technology into the customer, and we get that what I call wow factor. They get it, they look at it, they realize the significance of this technology, and they start thinking about how can I use that more effectively than the way I'm doing things now. So you start getting into these conversations about how can we, not how can we not use this technology.
What it means is that this technology we've demonstrated that it solves very big problems and is applicable to a very broad range of applications in the electronics market. Everything from the phone or a projector that's sitting on the conference room table, all the way to the highest end mainframes, all the way to the lowest end Game Boys and consumer electronics.
But not so fast. Neoconix still needs to perfect the tiny metal pads that marry one device to another. They could be frail or fragile, so this stress tester nudges the pads again and again to see how much they can take.
The intent of this test is to determine where the fatigue will happen on the contact, and so we're forcing it to break. Under end loads, for example, like 100,000 insertions or so, or 200,000 insertions, typically some of the contacts do fail, and that's what we're trying to determine here.
If it works, Neoconix may reshape a $30 billion industry.
In my mind, it's a paradigm shift in the industry, the way interconnect will be established. So effectively, you have connector companies that do a stamping and forming, which is 50 to 75 years old, and you have PCB companies that do printed circuit boards, which is 50 years old as well. What we've done is taking and combine those two together and pushed up into a new paradigm. So effectively what this does, it actually will revolutionize the connector and printed circuit board world in my eyes.
But as a startup with only 30 people on staff, it's an uphill challenge. Although managers feel it helps that their brain pool comes from the Silicon Valley brain trust.
I think Silicon Valley provides an infrastructure or a hotbed of resources for a startup like us to really get the company growing quickly. So one of the big challenges we have as a company is the fact that we have this $35 billion market to address, and we're a 30-person startup. I don't think you can drive a company into such a large market against billion-dollar competitors with such a small team unless you have an infrastructure in place to support that kind of a audacious effort, if you will.
The first strip connector products are a few months away, but when it's not developing tomorrow's connectors, Neoconix still makes regular circuits the old way.
This is conventional manufacturing.
This is conventional, and to that point, we could work with any printed circuit board manufacturer, and they could, in essence, do our product with very little additional equipment set.
When you're not making conventional boards, you're testing out the future.
Exactly. That's a good way to look at it.
That's very interesting.
Yep.
So you guys are moonlighting with the future.
We're letting our customers have a little vision of the future.
The future could be only a year away. Maybe a year till strip embeds connect handheld video telephones with computers and mini TVs.
What it means for the consumer is a significant performance advantage and also a significant reduction in the form factor of the product, and also probably most importantly for most consumers, reduced cost.
It's a dream from a Silicon Valley startup that could make a huge connection with our electronic world.
Our mission statement is very simple. Our plan is to reinvent the interconnect industry, and that's what we're doing.
There's a place where a total stranger will give their blood to save your life. There's a place where someone you never knew will save your child from drowning. A place where people will give you food and shelter after a flood. There's a place where, when you need it most, someone will reach out their hand, put it across your shoulder and say, "Everything's going to be okay." That place is called America, where we look out for each other. And it's up to us to keep it that way. When you help the American Red Cross, you help America.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Here's your uncle.
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's. No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed. What are those?
Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time.
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Whenever there's new innovations or revolutionary technologies, chances are they've got something to do with the Silicon Valley. And that is what Tech Closeup is all about.
Tech Closeup is about even more than just bites and chips. We cover the people in your community. We're all over the Bay Area. To find Tech Closeup where you live, just go to our website at techcloseup.com.
As you know by now, we like to feature exhibits from our home base here at the Tech Museum of Innovation in San Jose. Every once in a while, the Tech likes to showcase new technologies in unusual ways, and that's why we call it Tech Bites. Well, Christina King has found a tech bite that literally takes a bite out of our own world.
How would you like to get a view of the Earth the way astronauts really get to see it? Well, you can do that here at the Tech Museum of Innovation in San Jose, California. I'm here with Judy Peterson with the museum to talk about a new exhibit that it's just fascinating for kids and adults alike, and it's right behind us. What do you call this?
It's called View from Space, and so you really do see the Earth from the perspective of the astronauts. It was invented by a man at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in Boulder, Colorado. And he wanted people to not only see the Earth as the astronauts do just for fun, but primarily he wanted people to see the changes in the climate and the impact that that has on the Earth. And so that's what our exhibit does. It can show you a variety of things from hurricanes to tsunamis to global warming.
And I do want to talk about the educational aspects of this exhibit, but first off, what this really is like a spherical movie screen. How do they manage to, it's a projection system? Can you explain that to me?
It is a projection system. The globe itself is just made from carbon fiber. That was selected because it's very lightweight. He went through a number of different globes, one of which was so light it sagged into an egg shape. And so this one was light and can be suspended. Now I know it looks like the globe itself is moving, but it is not. The globe is stationary. We have it surrounded by 4 projectors, and the projectors put the images onto the globe and overlay so that you get that 3D effect.
And when people come here, they can walk around the exhibit. That you don't have to just stay in one point. You can walk around as the Earth is rotating and look at the different happenings. Weather-wise, what have we that we can look at on the screen?
Well, one of the things that I find most fascinating is the one that shows global warming. And the Earth starts out looking like it does now, and then they put a little clock up in the corner, and every 10 years the clock starts going up. And it's estimated that if our way of life continues as we are doing today, that, say, San Francisco's average temperature of 68 degrees a year will be up to 98 degrees in 140 years.
Wow.
And the Earth, as this presentation goes on, the Earth starts to turn the color of your sweater.
Oh, that's scary. Well, and I would think that would enthrall not only adults but children as well. I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. Is this something that I could bring them to?
Absolutely. That's probably about our starting age for the museum. And then really, as you said, even adults. This presentation that we put on, by the way, meets some of the core requirements for earth sciences. So we've been getting a lot of interest from school groups during the week coming out for field trips. And you know, the other thing that's important to note is there is some disagreement over whether global warming is indeed a reality. But we try to point that out. Because it is a complicated thing, we do actual presentations. This is not one of the Tech's hands-on type of exhibits, but very interesting stuff and very fascinating.
Well, what I enjoy about looking at this is the weather patterns. You can look at scenarios with tsunamis as well as hurricanes, and really it truly is just a view from a satellite. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the weather patterns as they progress, what you're able to learn from that?
Actually, some of them are satellite photos that we have digitized. There's quite a bit of computer animation. We even have photos that were taken by buoys out in the middle of the ocean.
Oh.
So it's a very complicated and robust type of presentation. But we will be able to show you all sorts of different things. We can show you night lights. So, you know, when you see a big blob of yellow all over the United States, guess what? That's lights. You see when you see big portions of white, those are clouds and the cloud formations. So you do get a whole variety of different things of how the Earth and her temperatures and her climate change on a regular basis.
You know, when you look at the Earth, you see so much of it, most of it is water. And as you look at this exhibit, you can also see the topography of the ocean floor, which is also phenomenal to me because I think the kids would really learn a lot about the fact that, you know, the world is not flat. And under the ocean, you see the flat water surface, but no, underneath you have canyons and volcanoes and literally mountains.
Well, that's one of the things that we talk about. We talk about how, for example, the mountains in the sea force their way up, and then even how the earthquake plates were formed. So one of the presentations actually starts out with all of the continents together as they were millions and millions and millions of years ago. And then they started breaking apart, the mountains started forming, the plates started to rub against each other, and that's when you get your 1989 or 1906 earthquakes. So we go into a lot of different educational aspects.
So the man who developed this, what's his name?
His name is Alexander McDonald, and he's with NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in Boulder, Colorado.
Must have taken a lot of work.
Well, it's interesting. He said he was driving home from work one day and said, why don't we have a way to display all of this data? And so he went back the next day and got his team going and said, figure out how to do it. And they went through a series of technologies. Finally, in 2003, he was nominated for a Tech Award. We have a award program here called the Tech Museum Awards, and he was one of our 2003 winners. So now here we are 2 years later, the technology is almost perfected, and we're able to very happily combine two of our great programs, our exhibits for educational purposes and our Tech Award laureates, who we want to get as much recognition as we can for.
And those Tech Awards are really spectacular. We've covered that here on Tech Closeup, and we know what an honor it is to receive such an award.
Well, the idea behind them is to benefit, to award technology benefiting humanity. And so it can't be a cool gizmo necessarily. It needs to be something that's going to do something good for mankind and to help the Earth and help the people who live on her.
Well, I can't think of anything better doing good for mankind than educating people about the Earth that they live on.
Tech Closeup is branching out. Not only can you watch our program on your cable community access and website channels, but now you can also watch promos for Tech Closeup on San Francisco's KRON 4 TV and WB20.
There's always so much going on with Tech Closeup, but you can keep up to date. All you have to do is log on to techcloseup.com to find out where we're airing in your community and what time. Until later, I'm Christina King.
And I'm Mark Levinson. And remember, if you want to stay close to the technologies that drive this incredible Silicon Valley, then join us next time for another edition of Tech Closeup.